the quantity purchased is 7, and so on. So various prices and corresponding quantities that are purchased. This is a demand schedule. Now, demand curve, a graphic representation of the demand schedule, the table you saw. Suppose if you draw a curve and include those aspects, price and quantity, then it is the demand curve. So demand curve is graphic representation of the demand schedule. Okay, a graphic representation of the individual's demand schedule gives demand curve. Or if you want a proper definition of demand curve, then we can define demand curve as a line or a graph showing alternative quantities of a good or service consumer is able and willing to buy over a range of possible prices, ceteris paribus, keeping everything else constant. Okay, a line or a graph showing different quantities or alternative quantities of a good or a service that the consumer is able and willing to buy, and at different prices, various levels of prices, keeping everything else constant. Okay. The y-axis in the demand curve, it shows the price, and x-axis shows the units of the commodity, the quantity, or the quantity of commodity is taken on the x-axis and price is taken on the y-axis. The demand curve slopes negatively downwards. So demand curve is a negatively sloping curve, very similar to the marginal utility curve, right? So we, in one of the previous classes, we had seen we can draw the demand curve using the marginal utility curve. As the consumption increases, as you consume more and more units of the same commodity, the additional satisfaction you get goes on decreasing. That was the marginal utility curve or the MU curve. Similarly, as the price of a commodity increases, the quantity demanded of that commodity goes on decreasing. So there is an inverse relationship between the price and the quantity. That's why the demand curve is negatively sloping. So this is how a demand curve looks like. When the price is 0, quantity 8, okay? When the price decreases to 6 rupees, you purchase 10 units or 10 kgs. When the price comes down to 4 rupees, you'll be purchasing 18 units. And when the price comes down further to 2 rupees, then 25 kgs would be purchased. And if the price becomes 0, then the quantity purchased would be 31 kgs. So this line, negatively sloping line, it represents the demand curve. Quantity of the commodity purchased or demanded is taken on the x-axis, and price of the commodity is taken on the y-axis. Law of demand and market demand. These two aspects we'll cover in this slide. Okay. You remember the law of marginal utility. As you go on consuming more and more units of the same commodity, the additional satisfaction you derive goes on decreasing, keeping everything else constant. Very similar to that, law of demand states, if the price of a commodity increases, then quantity demanded decreases, and vice versa. If the price goes on decreasing, the quantity demanded goes on increasing, ceteris paribus, keeping everything else constant. So other things being equal, that is ceteris paribus, if the price of a commodity falls, decreases, the quantity demanded of it will rise. Okay, and vice versa. This is law of demand. Thus, according to law of demand, there is an inverse relationship between price and the quantity demanded, ceteris paribus, keeping everything else constant. Then what is market demand? Market demand or the aggregate demand. Aggregate means total. So market demand is the total demand. How do you get the market demand? You have to sum up. You have to take the total of the demand of all the individual consumers. Suppose there are, say, 4 or 5 consumers in the market. One is me, the other one is Devendra, third one is, I think it is Gautami, and Gavi Siddhaya, and Mamu. Letter K. Okay, so these 5 are the consumers in the market. So I demand 100 kgs, Devendra demands about 50 kgs, 150. Then Gautami demands about 80, 150 plus 80, 230. Gavi Siddesh, he demands, say, 30 units. So 230 plus 30 is 260. And K here demands about 40. So 260 plus 40 kgs, total is 300 kgs. So that is the market demand or aggregate demand. It is the horizontal summation of all the demands. Okay. If you write the demand curves of all the 5 consumers in the market side by side, and if you take the horizontal summation of all the demand curves, then it becomes the market demand or the aggregate demand. So market demand is nothing but summation of individual demands in the market. So adding up the various quantities of a commodity purchased by all the consumers in the market, or a horizontal summation, horizontally you total up the demands of all the quantities demanded by all the consumers in the market, you get the market demand or the aggregate demand. Why the demand curve slopes downwards? Why there is negative relationship or inverse relationship between the quantity demanded and the price? There are 3 causes here mentioned. So generally the demand curve slopes downwards. This is in accordance with the law of diminishing marginal utility. So law of demand is related to the law of diminishing marginal utility. That's why we could derive the demand curve from the marginal utility curve. There are 3 effects. The first one is the income effect. As the commodity becomes cheaper, when the prices go down, the commodity becomes cheaper, consumers' real income increases. Yesterday, we had seen, while discussing about wages, rent, interest, and profit, the wages or wages, they are classified as nominal wages and real wages, or nominal income and the real income. You know the difference between real income and nominal income. So as the commodity becomes cheaper, when the price comes down, the consumer's real income increases, because with the same level of wages, same level of income, he can purchase more. So the real income increases. That is the income effect. Okay. So when the prices come down, the real income increases. That means they can purchase more quantity of the commodity, so the demand increases. Then substitution effect. Substitution means using one for the other, purchasing one commodity instead of other commodity. That is substitution. Suppose the price of coffee increases. Suppose now it is 10 rupees per cup, it goes up to 15 or 16 rupees per cup. Whereas tea is available still at 10 rupees per cup. Then if you like both coffee and tea, you're not specific only about coffee or only about tea. You can use or you can consume any one of them. Definitely, when the price of coffee goes to a very high level, you will substitute tea for coffee. If coffee is 16 rupees per cup and tea is only 10 rupees per cup, though you are usually consuming coffee, you may switch over to tea because it is cheaper. That is substitution effect. Okay, when the commodity becomes cheaper, it tends to be substituted wholly or partly for other commodities. Instead of costlier commodity, you use the you purchase the cheaper commodity. That is substitution effect. The income and effect and substitution effect, they combine to increase the ability and willingness of the consumer to buy more of the commodity whose price has fallen. So the willingness also increases because it is cheaper, and ability also increases because the real income increases. So usually people consume more or purchase more of a cheaper commodity, or the commodity the price of which has fallen, which has come down. And the third one is a commodity tends to be put to more users or less urgent users when it becomes cheaper. Electricity. If the electricity charges are very high, per unit 15 rupees, then you will use it only for lighting. Even for the fan, you'll say, no, 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 put off the fan. The fan switch, yeah, please switch it off. Okay, we don't want fan. Instead of that, we will use the mechanical fan, okay, made up of maybe bamboo or plastic, or even the arecanut sheet. Okay, you prepare the fan and physically you use it, okay, to get rid of that hot temperature. Okay, so a commodity tends to be put to more uses. Suppose from 15 rupees per unit it comes down to 10 rupees per unit, then you'll say, okay, put on the fan because the electricity bills will be less. Suppose it comes down further to 5 rupees per unit, then for heating water, for taking bath, you want to heat water, use the heat electric uh, unit. Okay, so for everything you use, even for ironing and everything, you use the you put on the geyser and all. So you'll be using electricity for various uses, less urgent uses, if it becomes cheaper. Example, water. Usually the main use is drinking, then taking bath and washing clothes. These are the main uses. Suppose the water prices come down, water becomes cheaper. So you'll use plenty of water for washing car every day. Otherwise, you'll wash only once in a week or maybe once in 2 weeks. But if water becomes cheaper, then every day you'll start washing car, cleaning the premises. Okay, you wash the compound, everything. Okay, so these are the reasons why demand curve slopes downwards. Electricity, light and fans usually, water heating also using the geysers. Yes. If it becomes cheaper. Factors affecting demand. One is price of the commodity. Okay, if the price increases, quantity demanded decreases. If the price decreases, quantity demanded increases. So price of the commodity is the first factor which affects demand. But there are other non-price factors which affect demand. They are tastes and preferences of consumers. Okay, now suppose you're in the village, you're from the traditional family, then you may not like gobi Manchurian, pizza, and all those things. Okay, but once you come to Bangalore and you make friends with all the people here, the other students, then sahawasa dosha irbahudu. Okay, then your tastes and preferences they change. When the tastes and preferences change, instead of consuming dosa, idli, and uppitu and such things, you'll start eating gobi Manchurian, pizza, and such junk food. So tastes and preferences of consumers, they also affect demand. And the third factor is income of the consumers. If the income increases, our consumption level goes up. When our consumption level goes up, the demand also increases. The fourth factor is changes in the prices of related commodities, substitutes and complements. So whenever substitutes come, it is easier to remember coffee and tea, coffee and tea, or rice and wheat. It is easier to remember. Coffee and tea are the substitutes. They are competitors for consumption. Okay, and complements, it is easier to remember car and petrol. Okay, if you want to drive more, use car more, then you have to use more of petrol. So they always go together. Number of cars increases, the quantity of petrol used consumed also increases, complementary. If the petrol becomes very costly, now it has crossed 100 rupees in Karnataka also. Suppose it becomes further increases, it becomes 125 rupees. Then the demand for car, it decreases. So instead of using car, I'll go by bus, I'll go by metro train. So they are complements. Naturally, the demand is affected by prices of related commodities. If the price of coffee increases, then the demand for tea is affected. Okay, if the price of petrol increases, the demand for car is affected. So changes in the prices of related commodities also affect the demand for a particular commodity. Then sociological factors. Okay, now if you go to the villages, nowadays it is okay. Otherwise, all your Bermuda and all three-fourths pant, half pant, all those things you cannot use in a traditional village. So demand for such cloth will be less. But if you come to a city from a village, demand for such products will increase. So sociological factors also, the customs, those things, okay, it will be, and culture in a particular place, they affect the demand for a commodity. Then consumers expectations with regard to future price. Now if there is a rumor that in another 2 days cigarettes will not be available in the market, the supply of cigarettes has come down, no imports, manufacturing in the country has also come down, so availability of the cigarettes will be reduced. Then Even if the price goes up today, the demand for cigarettes will be very high today because consumers expect that there will be shortage of supply of cigarettes next week. So the prices will go up from 50 rupees per packet to maybe 150 rupees per packet. So the demand increases today. So consumers' expectations with regard to future prices will also affect the demand of a commodity. Now, couple of concepts related to demand. One is change in quantity demanded. It can also be referred to as extension and contraction in demand. Change in quantity demanded. There are two related words. One is change in quantity demanded. The other one is change in demand. Change in quantity demanded and change in demand. Change in demand we'll take up in the next slide. Now we'll concentrate on change in quantity demanded. A change in the own price of the commodity. Suppose we are talking about, say, sugar. Sugar, okay? If the price of sugar increases, it is shown here. If the price of sugar increases, the quantity demanded of sugar will decrease. I repeat, when the price of sugar increases, quantity demanded of sugar decreases. Okay, so from Q1, you'll be moving to Q2. That means from this point, you are moving to the second point here. So you are moving along the same given demand curve. You are moving along the same demand curve. It is change in quantity demanded. A change in the own price of the commodity will result in a movement along the demand curve, the same demand curve. It is called contraction in demand. Okay, it is called contraction, reduction. The quantity demanded becomes smaller, contraction in demand. On the other hand, if the price decreases, then quantity demanded increases. From this point, you'll be moving to the other point here. You are moving from Q1 to Q2. Again, movement is along the same demand curve. It is extension. That is, the quantity demanded becomes more. Extension. So extension and contraction in demand takes place when price of a commodity alone changes. Other factors which we listed in the previous slide, they are not changing. They are all kept constant or ceteris paribus. Okay, only the price of that commodity changes. The non-price factors such as income, tastes and preferences of consumers, etc., they remain constant. Change in quantity demanded. Now, the other one is change in demand or increase and decrease in demand. Here, we are not moving along the same demand curve. What happens here is a consumer's demand curve will shift. The demand curve itself will shift because of changes in non-price factors. Factors other than price of the commodity, like income, prices of related goods, tastes and preferences of consumers, and so on, they change. Because of that, there will be shift in the demand curve. Why there is a shift? Because price of that commodity, suppose it is sugar, the price of sugar remains the same. Okay, price of sugar remains the same, but the quantity demanded changes. Maybe because the doctors advise a particular consumer, now your blood sugar test Okay, it has shown that you have diabetes. So don't consume sugar, or you minimize the consumption of sugar. The price remains the same, but the taste and preference of the consumer changes. Preference for sugar, it gets reduced because the consumer is suffering from diabetes. Okay, suddenly the demand curve shifts leftwards. The price is the same, but the quantity purchased changes from Q1 to Q2. Because of diabetes, the consumer wants to consume less quantity of sugar. Whereas if the consumer, he starts liking a particular sweet, and he asks his wife or mother to prepare that particular sweet frequently in the house, then his demand for sugar increases, quantity demanded, it increases, even though the price remains the same. Price of sugar in the market remains the same, but consumption of sugar increases because the sweet, that particular sweet that he likes, is prepared very frequently in the house. This is for the individual. Okay, changes in demand causes shift in the demand curve. It is also called as increase in demand or decrease in demand. When there are changes in factors determining demand other than price, like income, preferences of consumers, and so on, the whole demand curve shifts. So it is change in demand. Now, there are some exceptions to law of demand. Normally, generally, when the price increases, quantity demanded has to decrease. And when the price decreases, quantity demanded has to increase. This is the general phenomenon. This is what generally happens in the market. But there are some exceptions. Sometimes it doesn't happen so. When the price increases, the quantity demanded also increases. When the price decreases, the quantity purchased also decreases. There are exceptions to the law of demand. Only few cases we come across this, or few occasions we come across this. Let us look into those exceptions to law of demand. One, goods having prestige value. If the good, the particular commodity, it gives you prestige in the society, then higher the price, more will be your demand. Okay, for example, gold jewelry, diamond, and so on. So if you are wearing diamond, everyone will think high of you in the society. Everyone says, oh, he's a rich person. KC Divya, I see the name here on the screen. Okay, KC Divya, suppose she purchases a diamond, and everyone will say, oh, Divya, look at her. She's very wealthy. She's wearing diamond necklace. Suppose she becomes much richer, then she'll purchase even Kohinoor diamond from the uh, exhibition in London. Okay, so goods having prestige value, the demand will be high. Economist Thorsten Veblen, he described this phenomenon. He explained this phenomenon as conspicuous consumption. Conspicuous means kannige rachotara, which is very much visible. Conspicuous consumption. According to him, according to Thorsten Veblen, some consumers measure the utility of a commodity entirely by its price. If it is costly, we think it has more utility if you're wealthy. Okay? That is, for them, the greater the price, greater is its utility. Higher the price, higher the utility. You might have watched, at least some of you might have watched the movie Three Idiots, Amir Khan, Kareena Kapoor, okay, Three Idiots film. In that film, Kareena Kapoor is engaged to somebody, and in one of the parties, okay, uh, in a function, Amir Khan comes there, and he tells Kareena Kapoor that your would be, because she is engaged to somebody, your would be, I mean, he's having this problem, okay, conspicuous consumption. He says, do you want to know how much his shoes cost? And he pours something on the shoe, and immediately that would be, he starts shouting, do you know how much I have paid for these shoes? It costs 3,000 rupees and so on. That is conspicuous consumption. They think that higher the price, more prestige they will have in the society. In that case, it is an exception to law of demand. When the price increases, their demand also increases. If the price decreases, they'll think that it is cheaper. It is it is not going to help to boost up their prestige. So when the price comes down, they'll purchase less of that. Okay, that is one of the exceptions to law of demand. Here I have given the example of diamonds. When the diamonds are costly, people purchase more. Such people who are after conspicuous consumption, they'll purchase more of diamond. If the price of diamond comes down, they'll purchase less because they think that it will not add prestige value to their life. Yeah, I've given a Three Idiots film. Okay, the second exception to law of demand is Giffen paradox. Okay, or Giffenನ ವಿಪರ್ಯಾಸ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದಾ? So you expect something, what happens is different. Virodhabhasa ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. Virodhabhasa is the correct translation for paradox. Virodhabhasa. Okay, Giffen paradox is something we expect, what happens is something else. And Giffen was the person who observed this, studied this. So first investigated by Sir Robert Giffen. Sir is a title given by the Queen of England. Okay, Sir Robert Giffen. In the early 19th century, he studied this. He observed this phenomena, that is exception to law of demand. What happened then in the early 19th century was when the price of bread increased. Okay, during that period, a few years, the price of bread increased in England. The poor British workers, they purchased more bread and not less of it. So when the price increases, usually people buy less of it, but instead, during that period, what happened in Britain was the price of bread increased, but the poor British workers, they purchased more bread instead of less bread. What was the reason for that? The reason was their main diet, the diet of those poor workers in Britain, was bread and meat. Every day they used to eat bread with meat. But when the price of bread increased, their real income decreased. When their real income decreased, they could not afford to purchase meat. It was difficult for them to purchase meat. So they had to fill their belly. ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ತುಂಬಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೇಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು. So they were forced to purchase more bread and less of meat so that they could balance their expenditure. The reason, their main diet consisted of bread and meat. So when price of bread increased, they were forced to spend more on bread because they could not afford to purchase same quantity of meat. as they were purchasing earlier. Therefore, they could not afford to purchase as much meat as before. Thus, they substituted bread for meat in order to maintain their intake of food. Since Robert Giffen studied this behavior, such goods having a direct price and demand relationship, when the price increases, the quantity demanded also increases. That is exception to law of demand. It was called as Giffen goods. Those goods were called as Giffen goods. Here, demand curve slopes upward right. That means instead of downward sloping, the demand curve will move up rightward. It will be positive, okay? Not negative relationship, positive relationship between price and quantity demanded. And the third reason for exceptions to law of demand, future expectations. As I mentioned earlier, suppose you fear that in the near future, next week or coming month, there will be a serious shortage of petroleum. Today itself, you'll take all the cans you have, or you purchase 2 or 3 cans in the market, plastic cans, 5 liters, 10 liters can, and you will run to the petrol bunk to purchase petrol. And what the petrol bunk will do, definitely they'll increase the price. Okay, so future expectations, when a serious shortage is feared, though the price of petrol is increasing, you'll purchase more of petrol, fearing next week, next month, there'll be serious shortage of the commodity. So this is exception to law of demand. The demand curve is moving upwards, rightward, and the relationship between price and quantity is positive. Then choke price. Choke means what? If suppose somebody holds your neck very tight, you will be choked. You cannot breathe. Choking. Okay. So what is choke price? The price becomes so high that the demand will be choked. It will be squeezed. You cannot purchase. That is choke price. Okay. It is the maximum price at which the demand for a commodity approaches zero, or almost it becomes zero. That is the choke price. And in this graph, P1 represents the choke price, because when the price becomes P1, the quantity demanded becomes zero. So as the price goes on increasing and it approaches P1, the quantity demanded goes on decreasing and it approaches zero. When the price becomes P1, the quantity demanded becomes zero. So when the price is P1, quantity demanded is zero. So P1 is the choke price. It totally chokes the quantity demanded, squeezes the quantity demanded, choke price. Consumer's surplus. Okay. Consumer surplus, this concept was first developed by Jules Dupuit. Okay, Jules Dupuit, he first developed this consumer surplus concept in 1844, long back. Okay, 1844, 1.5 centuries ago, to measure social benefits of public goods such as canals, water canals, bridges, national highways, and so on. So if canals are constructed, bridges are constructed, national highways are constructed, then what will be the social benefit that is derived? How much benefit the society will get? So to study this, he developed the concept of consumer's surplus. But later on, it was popularized by Alfred Marshall. So we frequently come across the name of Alfred Marshall. So Marshall refined this consumer surplus concept and popularized it. Now, what it means, what is the essence, what is the summary or gist of consumer surplus? What it says is, if you get more satisfaction than what you spend for that, if the satisfaction is more than the expenditure you incur. So when you spend money, you lose satisfaction, right? When you spend money, you lose satisfaction because the money stock you had comes down. Suppose you had 10 lakh rupees and you purchase a car. Okay, you had 10 lakh rupees with you, you purchased a car, you paid 5 lakh rupees for that. Now, the money you had, okay, the purse, the size of the purse was 10 lakh rupees. Now it has come down to 5 lakh rupees. To that extent, your satisfaction will come down. But at the same time, you have purchased a car. So you can drive car and go to office or go to city or to relatives' house. So you'll get satisfaction from that. So if the satisfaction you get by spending money is more than the satisfaction you lose by spending the money, then it is called as consumer's surplus. Okay. So a consumer derives extra satisfaction from the purchases he makes over and above the price he actually pays for them, then there is consumer's surplus. One more example. Suppose you have a very favorite actor. You are a fan of a particular actor, okay? And you want to watch his movie first day, first show. And unfortunately, you could not book the ticket earlier. On the day of film release, you go to the film theater, first day, first show, and you want to watch it. Balcony ticket is 200 rupees. In that theater, balcony ticket is 200 rupees per ticket. And you are ready to pay 500 rupees. You are ready to pay 500 rupees in black for that 200 rupees worth ticket. You go there and somebody, a black market person or black ticket selling person, okay, he approaches you and he asks you, do you want a ticket? And you inquire, how much? Immediately he says 400 rupees. Ticket worth is 200 rupees and he demands 400 rupees. You were ready to pay 500 rupees. Immediately you grab the opportunity. You give him 400 rupees and purchase the ticket. Now, you were ready to pay 500 rupees. You actually pay 400 rupees. The difference 100 rupees is consumer's surplus. So it is the difference between what a consumer is ready to pay. It is the difference between what the consumer is willing to pay and what he actually pays. You were ready to pay 500 rupees, but you actually pay 400 rupees. The difference 100 rupees is the consumer's surplus. I hope you have understood this concept. Consumer surplus is what a consumer is willing to pay minus what he actually pays. Consumer surplus is the difference between what a consumer is willing to pay and what he actually pays. So the other way of explaining it is consumer surplus is equal to total utility derived minus total amount spent. Now, in that film theater example, okay, now you were ready to pay 500 rupees. That means the total utility that you could derive was 500 utils if you equate the price with the utility. Okay, so the utility that you could get was 500, whereas you paid, that is the total amount spent, was 400. So it is the difference between total utility derived and the total amount spent. Total utility minus total amount spent. So consumer surplus is the difference between the total utility obtained by a consumer and the total amount spent by him. So it can be written as consumer surplus is equal to total utility minus total expenditure. How do you calculate the total utility? Total utility is the summation of marginal utilities. The first mango, okay, the first 1 unit of mango you consume, you get 15 utils of satisfaction. The second fruit, second unit of mango you consume, you get 10 utils of satisfaction. So first marginal utility, 15 utils. Second marginal utility, 10 utils. The third mango you consume, you will get, say, 5 utils. So how much is the total utility? First utility, marginal utility, first fruit, marginal utility, 15 utils. Second fruit, the marginal utility is 10 utils. The third fruit, marginal utility is 5. So 15 plus 10, 25. 25 plus 5, 30. So total utility is 30. And how do you calculate the total expenditure? To purchase one banana, you have to pay 5 rupees. Suppose you purchase 5 bananas. What is the total expenditure? How do you calculate? The number of bananas multiplied by price of banana. One banana, it is 5 rupees. 5 bananas, it is 5 into 5, 25. So it is quantity into price. Summation of marginal utilities, total utility. Multiplication between quantity and price gives you total expenditure. So CS, consumer surplus, is equal to total utility minus total expenditure. So that is equal to sigma mu, the summation of marginal utilities, price into number of units of the commodity purchased or the quantity. Another way, consumer surplus, potential price, sadhyate. What is the likely price, the maximum price you are ready to pay, potential price, the maximum price the consumer is ready to pay, potential price, and the actual price. Okay, 500 rupees, the potential price, your cinema ticket, 500 rupees potential price, actual price 400 rupees. The difference between the two is consumer's surplus. Potential price is the value in use. How much satisfaction you get, how much useful it is to you. Potential price, it tells you the value in use. And actual price is the value in exchange, how much money you actually give to get the commodity, value in exchange. So if value in use, that is potential price, is greater than value in exchange, actual price, then there will be consumer's surplus. So consumer surplus, it could be other way around. Consumer surplus is the difference between the satisfaction which the consumer derives from the commodity and the satisfaction which he forgoes in order to purchase the commodity. That's what I explained at the beginning. By getting the commodity, you get the satisfaction. When you spend money, you lose the satisfaction. Getting satisfaction, losing satisfaction, difference between the two, if it is positive, then there is consumer's surplus. In case of matchbox, you are ready, if it is priced at 2 rupees, you are ready to purchase, but in the market it is only 1 rupee. Okay, same thing with salt. Without salt, your food will not be tasty. They are charging 5 rupees per packet. Even if it is 10 rupees, you are ready to pay. There is consumer surplus here. There is some consumer surplus here. Postcard, you are paying only 75 paise, but you are sending letter to your friend or somebody. Of course, if it is not secret message, okay, you are paying only 75 paise, but it takes the message from you. But today, because of mobile phones, it has lost its significance. Otherwise, it was very useful. You could send a message from your village to New Delhi or Mumbai or Chennai or even Bengaluru. Okay, so postcard was very useful. You are ready to pay more, but you are paying only 75 paise. Newspaper also, it gives you all the information. So there is consumers surplus here. So consumer surplus is price you are willing to pay minus price you actually pay. Okay, so fruit, 1 unit, maybe mango, maybe apple, or anything. Okay, please keep your
Sadev, off your mic.
okay. 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, and so on. The marginal utility goes on decreasing as you consume more and more units of the fruit. Okay, so price you're willing to pay 20 rupees, 18 rupees, because as you go on consuming more and more, you are craving for fruit. Ayo, tinbeku, tinbeku, tinbeku. If you had seen that Big Boss, that Pooja Punja, Shubha Punja, she was craving for mango. I want mango, I want mango. And when I go back after this Big Boss, I'll eat a lot of mangoes. So if you have that craving, the first fruit, you get maximum satisfaction. As you consume more and more, the additional satisfaction goes on decreasing. So your willingness to pay price also goes on decreasing. But the price paid, the price you have to pay to get each fruit, it remains the same, 12, 12, 12, 12, 12. So consumer surplus, the first fruit, first unit of the fruit, price willing 20 rupees, actually paid 8 rupees. The difference is 8, that is consumer surplus. So as you go on consuming more, 18 rupees you are willing to pay, actually you are paying only 12, consumer surplus 6, and so on. But when you consume the fifth fruit, okay, the price you are willing to pay is only 12 rupees, and price you pay actually pay is only 12 rupees. So there is no consumer consumer surplus. Okay, there is no consumer surplus. Then if you move to sixth unit of the fruit, you are willing to pay only 10 rupees, and the price paid is 12 minus 2, that is negative. Instead of consumer surplus, it becomes a negative unit. Okay, always we equate marginal utility with price willing, or the price you are ready to pay. If you remember that utility analysis, we said a consumer is in equilibrium when the marginal utility is equal to the price. Okay, so here if you add all these figures, you'll get 20. That is the total consumer's surplus. Okay. If you want to give graphic representation to consumer surplus, total utility minus okay. Thank you. Now, thank you. So 8, 14, 18, 20 minus 2. Okay. If you consume the sixth one, but usually what happens is, this is shown for academic purpose. you won't cross this. Okay, that's why it is shown as consumer surplus. Okay, consumer surplus, because usually people won't cross this. But if you take the total and consider this also, it is 18, not 20. Thank you. Okay. Now, Marshall derives the consumer surplus from the demand curve. Demand curve is nothing but the marginal utility curve, because you are deriving the demand curve from the marginal utility curve. Okay. This is the demand curve. DD1 is the demand curve. PP1 is the price line. OP is the price. OX is the quantity of the fruit or whatever commodity that you are purchasing. Price into quantity gives you what? Price into quantity gives you what? Expenditure. Okay. Price multiplied by quantity of a commodity purchase gives you expenditure. So the area of this rectangle, length into breadth, okay, OP into OX. So OP EX, OP EX. This rectangle, it is the total amount the consumer actually spends. This is the expenditure. OX is the quantity of the commodity purchased at the price OP, OX. ODEX, ODEX. This area, it is the total utility. Here, the point D represents the maximum price that you are ready to pay, or the potential price. Okay, so the entire area, it represents entire area. ODEX, it represents the total utility. OPEX, it represents the total amount spent or total expenditure. And the difference between the two, this whole area minus this rectangle, so you are left with this triangle PDE. It represents the consumer's surplus. Okay, so this triangle PDE represents the consumer's surplus. Practical utility, or the importance of consumer surplus. Whether it is only theoretical issue, or can we apply this consumer surplus concept to our daily life? Taxation. Suppose the consumer surplus is more. We are ready to pay 15 rupees. We are paying only 10 rupees. Potential price, willing price is 15 rupees. Actual price is only 10 rupees. Consumer surplus is 15 rupees. Now, if the government imposes a tax of 2 rupees on each unit, then the price becomes 12 rupees instead of 10 rupees. The price increases from 10 rupees to 12 rupees. Even then, we are ready to purchase because there is a consumer surplus. So taxation can be increased. The rate of tax can be increased if there is a higher consumer surplus. This is one of the uses. Second one is comparing. How much time I have now? Do you have a class immediately, or shall I complete this practical utility?
Sir, this slide, okay, sir.
Okay. Comparing the advantages of opportunities or conjectural benefits. What it means is, you are living in Bangalore. Suppose you are staying in Bangalore today, and there is a possibility you can live in the village, remote village in Karnataka. Okay, I'll give that example here. A person earning rupees 50,000 in Bengaluru can enjoy better amenities, better facilities than a person earning rupees 75,000 in a remote village. Okay, in Bangalore, you want to have internet connection, you may have to pay 3,000 rupees. But if you want to get the same facility in village, you may have to pay, say, 5,000 rupees. Okay, and you want to watch a cinema, morning you can book the ticket. In if you are in Bangalore, book the ticket. Evening you can go there. But if you are living in a remote village, if you have to go to a theater and watch the movie, then you have to go to the nearby town. In Bangalore, you have so many theaters, you have so many uh, choices, because each theater will be exhibiting different films. So you have so many options. But in a remote village, it is less, and so on. I've given only a couple of examples. Otherwise, more facilities with less income. But remote village, less facilities, more income. So comparing the advantages of opportunities or conjectural benefits. So a person living in Bangalore has more consumers surplus. The larger the consumer surplus, more better off are the people. Then government subsidies, whether it is worth for a government to give subsidy for some commodities, maybe for the consumers or maybe for the farmers. A subsidy will be justified. We say it is worth giving subsidy if gain to consumers, that is, there is consumer surplus. If the gains to consumers is greater than the loss to the government, when the government gives subsidy, it has to spend crores of rupees. So it is a loss to the government. If the consumer surplus is more than the loss to the government, then we say it is worth giving subsidy. Government subsidy is justified. I'll stop here. If there are any questions, you can ask me. Actually, there is I think only one more slide. And with this, I complete this chapter.
Okay, sir. Continue, sir. Then.
Okay. Monopoly value. Monopoly means, who is a monopolist? I think I've explained while telling you about the market structure. Monopoly means there is only one seller. If there is only one seller, then he can resort to price discrimination. I've explained it. If the monopolist knows about the consumer surplus, if he knows, the seller knows about how much consumer surplus is there, then he can get maximum profit through price discrimination. What it means is, suppose this may not be a perfect example, but I'll tell you. Suppose there is one doctor in the village, only one doctor in the village, and all the villagers, they have to go to that doctor for any medicine. He's the monopolist. Okay, he's the only seller of medicines in the village. Then he can charge only 50 rupees to poor people, and he can charge 150 rupees to rich people. It is price discrimination. Okay, charging different prices to different categories of consumers by the seller is price discrimination. He can get more profit because though he gets only 50 rupees from the poor, he gets 150 rupees from the rich. Okay, that is monopoly value. Then international trade. You are exporting and importing, whether it is worth exporting and importing. If we import those commodities whose cost of production is higher in our country, producing, say, if it is two states instead of two countries, two states, Himachal Pradesh and Karnataka, producing apple in Karnataka is almost impossible, very costly. But producing apple in Himachal Pradesh is cheaper. So we can import fruits, apple from Himachal Pradesh to Karnataka. It is what it says here. If we export those commodities which are cheaply produced in our country, suppose it is between two states, Himachal Pradesh and Karnataka. In Karnataka, production of coffee is cheaper when compared to Himachal Pradesh. So we can export coffee to Himachal Pradesh. Okay, consumer surplus again. So when we import cheaper one, we have the consumer surplus. When we export, again there is consumer surplus. So consumer surplus of the society will increase and international trade will be justified. If we are importing cheaper ones, we are exporting cheaply produced in our country, there is consumer surplus and it is worth taking up international trade. With this, I complete the chapter on demand. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can ask me. If there are no questions, then bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Bye. Sir.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you, sir.
Manalleri Jopan Wagiri.
Okay, sir.